First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately?
Furthermore, the equation E is equal mc squared.
We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature.
That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, oh, this is a physics excursion.
Science. What is it all about?
The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of the nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time.
Our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold.
You're tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, connecting and amplifying the voices of our community, be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app while you're at the gym, hey Gabe, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4zzz.org.au. And of course, you can always listen back to our show or any other 4ZZZ show for that matter, even Z Digital, using the on-demand feature also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, 5 stars, a condensed version of the show without the music, which my mum apparently prefers. Just search for our show name, which is, of course, No Idea, spelt with a K. Your weekly dose of science. Then joining me today to deliver some gold standard science are 2 of my favourite science communicators. May I please introduce Peta.
Good morning.
And Gabriel.
Good morning, Max. I've done something, I've gone off book a little bit. I've got no weird science for you this week.
You did that last time.
I
QS
done
rankings.
That last time too. Instead,
Gabe
Max,
hates weird science.
because we've got some stuff from Issy coming up a little later. We've got the MotoRap, we've got the space news, we've got the marine science. What are you talking about?
What am I talking
Yeah,
about?
what's your marine science?
I'm not telling you.
Okay.
You have to stay tuned in.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know she's talking about sharks for one of the stories.
Can we flip
But
it?
Max,
Dare you
I
spoil
want to
my
get
story.
into Lyssaviruses.
Oh, yes.
And the Australian bat Lyssavirus,
Yeah, that's a
and
good
get
idea.
into some of the biology of those
Yeah.
viruses, how they work, how you can avoid getting the symptoms that come from the Australian bat Lyssavirus as well. So that's what I'm going to jump into a little later on in the show. What do you got, Max?
I'm going to talk about emojis, my favourite topic. So
Oh,
yeah,
good.
You like that. It's got such
No, I
science
love
substance.
you talking about them. I love you talking about them.
That's
It's
right.
fantastic.
You millennials, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm a Gen Z.
Oh, sorry.
Can't 4 years younger than that, actually.
Make my brain hurt, Peter.
All right. We've talked about ice bathing before. What do I always say about it, Gabe?
Ice bathing.
Yeah.
That you'll never do it until there's good evidence.
That is correct. I will never ice bathe unless there is great evidence. Well, you'll notice that there's many other health things that I don't rant and rave about, and one of those is sauna. Mainly because I think saying it in a Finnish accent is funny, de sauna, but also because I can respect that it's a cultural icon and people like it. Personally, though, I'm really not good at it. Not good at saunaing. Mm-hmm. I'd struggle to breathe in, and so then I feel like I have to breathe, and so I leave after a minute, maybe. I know you're meant to do it for 20 minutes. I can't last a minute in those things. I hate them. Thoughts of saunas?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Go in, sit down, walk out.
That's it.
That's about it.
Get naked.
There's usually some dude in there who's just staring at you like you're some puny mortal human who can't handle as long as they can at the top level of the sauna, but that's all right.
I also like saunas more now after Sweden's Eurovision entry this year, which was all about saunas.
It was.
Right.
And I discovered, Max, that in Sweden, they often do stuff like cook themselves sausages over the hot rocks.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you know that? They
Well, I
have
didn't-
sausages in the sauna.
It's a
Where's
kitchen.
that bit?
It's right.
I feel like Aussies could really get around that.
I'm really on board. If I can cook a snag on a stick over the hot coals.
Yeah,
while
sounds
I'm sweating
fantastic.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might stay in longer than a minute if I was given a sausage.
It's
But-
a different sort of workout, isn't it, when you think about it? Sorry.
No, I disagree, but sure, interesting idea. As we've established, though, I can't sauna. which is why I'm very excited about this new research.
Yeah.
So researchers at the University of Oregon in the US, QS ranking,
81.
please.
81.
Oregon.
81
60.
or 82.
No, you guys, honestly, we need to talk about your weird thing with the US. There's 751 to 760. You guys have weird stuff with the US. I don't know what it is. Every time it's a US uni, you're like sub 100.
Okay.
Anyway, so some researchers from there wanted to compare the acute physiological effects of 3 popular heat therapies. 1, traditional dry sauna. 2, infrared sauna, that's the new type. And 3, hot tub.
Yeah.
Sitting in a hot tub.
And we know which one wins, don't we?
Well, I know which one wins for me.
I do.
Well, each one of these methods has been individually studied before. This was the first study to directly compare them side by side. Which do you think will turn out on top?
Hot tubs.
Not sauna, probably hot tub.
Yeah. It's
Yep,
it's
okay.
less. Yeah. Anyway, it's all right. You go for it, Peter.
It's less. Thank you
It's
for that
less
permission.
hurt.
It's less hurt. Good for that. So let's get into the methodology first. They had 20 people participating, which is slightly better than our ice bathing study from a couple of weeks ago. 10 men, 10 women, age 20 to 28. No 10-year-olds, no children. Each participant underwent all 3 types of heat therapy on separate occasions. And then they collected data before, during, and after each session on their core body temperature, their blood pressure, their heart rate, their cardiac output, which is the amount of blood pumped by their heart per minute, and immune markers such as cytokines, which are inflammatory signaling molecules, immune cell populations, and other blood biomarkers. So I guess they had to have a blood test while in a hot tub. The study aimed to isolate direct physiological effects of each therapy. So they're not just asking them how they feel. This is like they took their blood, checked how they felt. And you're both right. Hot tub immersion had the strongest impact, which
Can I tell you
I'm
why
so
I said
excited
that?
about. Yeah.
One, you hate sauna and you're talking about this story, which means sauna mustn't have won.
I don't hate sauna. I just don't like
You
it
wouldn't have
personally.
cherry-picked this study.
Excuse me.
So I chose hot tub though because if there is a benefit to your body from increased heat, like that sort of fever level heat for a short amount of time that you can control, I would imagine it would be more beneficial to get it through water, which is a much better way of getting the heat into your body, directly transferring the heat than from the air like a sauna does, which is still kind of water because it's just steam in the air. But your body would heat up more by sitting in a 40-degree pool of water than sitting in a 40-degree sauna for 10 minutes or so.
That's pretty much it. But more than that, it's also that you can't lose heat. If so, water is a good conductor of energy, right? Which basically means, so if when you're going swimming, right, and the water is 28 degrees, and you're like, wow, that's so warm, I'm going to be warm forever. And you're in there for 30 minutes, and all of a sudden you start feeling cold. And you're like, how am I feeling cold? This is really warm water. It's because it's not at your body temperature. And water will move heat around so efficiently that if it's not at your body temperature, you will lose heat. But if it's above your body temperature, you will gain heat and you won't be able to lose it to the water. That's exactly what's happening here, is you can't sweat. There's no like evaporation on your skin. There's nothing. So you will be that temperature that the water is. That's what they're saying. is
Unless you
essentially-
get into the pro hot tub move of dangling out just the right amount of limb so that you can manage your temperature as you're
Well,
sitting
okay,
in
this
there.
is why I prefer hot tubs, is because my head's out of the water, so I can breathe cool air. That is my thing. It's the breathing. It's not the heat. I can maintain good heat. Anyway, so that is essentially the thing they think it is that you get better heat retention. The rise in temperature led to greater blood flow and vascular stimulation, which is beneficial for cardiovascular health. Only the hot water immersion triggered a measurable inflammatory response, so elevated cytokines and it changes in immune cell counts. And they think it's likely due because there is greater heat stress under the water immersion. They did say that saunas are still beneficial. They found benefits from sauna less than hot tubs. So they actually recommended hot tubs over sauna, which all day, any day, recommend me a hot tub. If it's beneficial for my health, I will get a hot tub. You sure, twist my arm. So they think that repeated heat stress, like from hot tub sessions, could support long-term health improvements like lowered blood pressure, better vascular function, and improved immune system responsiveness, which is wonderful. They also put in a paragraph saying that it was an accessible alternative to exercise. I don't know about that. I would say that exercise is pretty accessible comparatively to a hot tub. I can run for free. A hot
for a
tub is
walk.
expensive.
Then get in the hot tub.
Yeah, but they did say if you were unable to exercise, people unable to exercise, finding a hot water bathing would be helpful for your cardiovascular health. But also just alongside your exercise, they also said, social and psychological aspects of heat therapies for the cultural, spiritual, or just being relaxed, because it is relaxing. You get to relax in a hot tub with your mates. So yeah,
Cool.
if you want some good physiological benefits, better than a sauna, get in a hot tub.
So does this correlate with the ice baths that the sports people use instead of chucking them in a freezer?
I think that ice bathing is more about decreasing inflammation that's already there. From memories of the studies they did, they were measuring very different physiological responses from heat stress to ice stress. I would argue that I still haven't seen great evidence for the ice stress. I probably wouldn't submit myself to that. But they are different ideas at their core. I know in Finland, it's and a lot of that like Lapland area, the sauna, which sauna is traditional, you are meant to go dunk literally in the ice water, the water under the ice, and then go into the sauna, and they go in that back and forth process. And there's other science about that, but I don't exactly know what the benefit is meant to be there.
That's part 2 of this. This study was authored by Ian Ha from the University of Texas, which is in Austin. QS ranking
274.
8,000.
Use the bias.
Push my
Use the bias.
bias the other way.
It's 68.
Damn.
Now that text-based messaging is universal across age groups, the use and variety of emojis in such messages has surged. Defined as digital representations of emotions and ideas, emojis enrich text-based communication by conveying...
They're new age hieroglyphics.
There you go. Take that, Egyptians.
Yeah, well,
You a big emoji user, Max?
No, what's this?
What do you think your like top 3 most used emojis?
Just a heart. That's all I use.
Yeah, red heart was going to be
Heart?
my guess.
Yeah.
Smiley face?
No, I don't use anything else. I'll use the
Just the heart.
I'll use the thumb up to you now.
Thumbs
Of course
up.
you would. Yeah.
Yeah. Heart.
No, that's fair.
And the peach.
Heart and thumbs up. What else do you need?
And the peach.
The beach.
Heart, thumbs up, and peach. You don't need anything else. That's all.
I thought you said beach.
And
all the communication you
This
ever
is the
need.
brilliance of this story because it actually dwells into this. So you'll find out a bit more as I go on. So even though emojis are prevalent in texting and social media, their potential as a tool for fostering interpersonal connection between you and me, Gabe, remains underexplored. So to
Well, I don't think I've ever received an emoji from you other than a thumbs up.
that would have been Ian, mate. To fill this knowledge gap, Ha investigated how emojis influence relationship perceptions in online interactions. The participants included 260 adults ranging in age from 23 to 67.
I'm in that range.
They were randomly assigned to read 15 text messages that varied only in the presence or absence of emojis in the text. They were instructed to imagine themselves as the sender of each message and to focus on their partner's response.
Okay.
It's a one-way study at the moment. Participants rated partners who used emojis as more responsive than partners who communicated through text alone. So there you go. I'm not as responsive, Gabe.
It adds emotions.
Yeah. This perceived partner responsiveness through emoji use was positively associated with closeness and relationship satisfaction. Surprisingly, there were no significant difference between face and non-face emojis, suggesting that the type of emoji may be less critical than previously thought. Rather, it may be the presence of emojis that drives perceptions of greater partner responsiveness and better relationships.
I do say when I get a rare emoji come through in a text,
an
I do
elite-
appreciate that because not only do I get the specific emotional connotation that comes through that, but I know that
You've
person
taken time.
has taken time out of their day to hit that little emoji button and
okay.
scroll through and find the right
Or
thing.
search. The search. I cannot tell you how good the search is. I'm a search person. This is actually a good question for our text line. Do you scroll through your emojis to find them, or do you use the search function?
Emoji texts only. No words allowed. 0420-626-733. I just want emojis, and Max is going to decipher them on air.
That's right.
Oh my god.
Oh, not again.
Oh, good lord.
That was great when people
a
making up
question, Max.
sentences. Yeah.
Have you ever used a laughing emoji? And what do you use to show that you've laughed at something?
Well, I know you kids use the skull.
Oh, he's on it.
Yeah.
He's on it.
Yeah, I
He
remember
gets
from the
it.
last time we did this. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the skull.
Anyway, the author concludes, the study revealed that emojis can boost relationship satisfaction by signaling emotional attentiveness. Interestingly, it's not the type of emoji, but simply their presence that makes people feel closer to their partner.
Maybe I think it would depend a little bit on the emoji. Maybe not between face and not face, but if I was sending you a bunch of middle fingers and angry faces, I wouldn't assume that we felt closer together.
Fair enough.
If I just gave you a palm tree once and again, it'd probably just be confusing.
Yeah, it would be.
Biological representation in emojis is a joke. I'm sick of it. You keep looking for stuff. There's 4 versions of a chicken and one eagle, and then there's no other bird.
Okay, but we do need to acknowledge our
There's
own
no
privilege
moths.
in this situation, is that Japanese people love Australian animals, and so there is a koala and a kangaroo on there. We're slightly overrepresented.
And 2 types of
If
mushroom.
you compare that to New Zealand, there's no kiwi.
There's only 2 trees. One of them's a sapling.
Hey, there's a palm tree.
Yeah.
Now, Peter, before you do your friendly neighbourhood marine sciences, I should introduce the show. You're listening to 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science. Anyway, last week, have we got a sting for your marine science yet?
We're working on it.
Okay.
It's coming.
Currently in production.
In production.
I'm started. I've done a bit of production myself. You want to hear this?
Oh my goodness.
Here we go.
Yep.
This only comes from last week. This is the original. Are we going to hear from our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist?
You sure as hell are.
Okay, we got that one. Okay, and so I thought
That's good. I'll take it.
I thought this is even better. It's got a bit of eco radio vibe going on, but that's all right. Let's go. Are we going to hear from our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist?
You sure as hell are.
You can't handle the truth.
What do you got for us, Peter?
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow this.
Cancel production of the official sting. We're rolling with that.
Great. Cool. I was super excited. We've got a young Australian musician on my sting, working with a classic Australian show. But no, just me saying, you sure as hell are, and then an old movie
Jack
quote.
Nicholson.
Perfect. Okay, so if you, Max and Gabe, were to venture over 1,000 meters down into the deep blue, what are some things you think you might see?
Some very small,
Sharks.
small things.
Might see sharks, might see
Fish.
small things.
Little
Fish.
stars. A little submarine with some scientists streaming into it live from a boat above, going, "Oh my God, it's a Dumbo octopus!"
Yep, things like that. I think they're called the Nautilus, that ship.
Plastic,
Yeah, you'd see plastic.
Oh, don't go.
bottom trawling,
Yeah.
death,
Not that
destruction.
deep.
Squid.
No, bottom trawling doesn't usually go that deep. It's hundreds of meters, not thousands of meters. You would probably see a squid. What
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't expect to see is a bunch of sharks eating a cow. But it's happened, and it's on video. So essentially, there's one researcher from Sun Yat-sen University in China. QS ranking, please.
300.
200.
Alex is really close. 276. 276. Sun Yat-sen. And so this researcher was on a boat researching whale fall. I don't have an excuse for this. I don't know why they did this. Apparently, the best way to research whale fall is not to look at actual whale fall, which is when whales die and fall to the bottom of the ocean, literally whale fall. Best way to do that, apparently, is to drop a weighted cow down to the bottom of the ocean attached to a camera.
Okay. This is great
Seems odd.
science.
There's plenty of marine mammals out there, but I guess they didn't want to have to take the time to find them, so they just figured, drop a cow, see what happens.
Yep.
So the cow was deployed within the South China Sea.
From a torpedo.
Deployed. The life purpose of this cow was to be deployed after its death as a falling carcass.
A falling carcass. Deployed was in the study, by the way. They said I copied that because I thought that was incredible. So the cow was deployed within the South China Sea, and it attracted some unexpected visitors. Specifically, 8 Pacific sleeper sharks, which are very hard to find usually. So they were really excited about this. All 8 of them were identified as female, and it's exciting because it provides a pretty unique opportunity to study their behavior in situ. Now, here's my little caveat. Okay, the whole study is like, we get to see their natural behavior. Woo! I don't know if the natural behavior includes eating cows. That's just throwing that out there.
True.
You don't know that.
I wouldn't say it's part of their normal
Yeah, it's an
food
outlier.
groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said the sea cow was extinct.
Right. So let me just explain what this shark looks like. Pacific sleeper shark. Honestly, my best description of this shark is that it sort of looks like the bullet character in Mario Kart, except stretched a little.
Yep.
Like genuinely very similar in facial
And I think
expression.
it's got some and color too, dark,
dark,
and
dark
then white
grey.
on the bottom. I think.
Not much. Pretty much, they can have some grey patches, but they're usually dark all over. Dark grey, nearly black. The adults can grow quite large. They're typically around 3 to 4 meters, but there have been reports of individuals reaching up to 7 meters.
So did the cow just disappear immediately?
Pretty much.
That's enormous.
So they have this like thick cylindrical body, a blunt head and short snout, so they don't have that like elongated front. They're dark grey to blackish, which is obviously because they live in the deep ocean, blends in better. Sometimes, weirdly, they have these really tiny eyes, unlike a lot of other things in the deep ocean, so they obviously don't really rely on them very much. But sometimes they have parasitic copepods attached to their eyes, which like completely ruin their vision. So clearly eyes aren't that important to them.
Or perhaps are only important in early life and then not when they get big enough.
There's some weird thing about
their
their eyes. But again, there's not much known about these guys because they live so deep and it's hard to see them. From what I've seen, a lot of people describe them as like slow. They're called sluggish, like sleeper sharks. Apparently they're slow. They don't move much. They're not very fast. They're not like those, you see like a muckle shark and it's like barrel rolling and jumping and these sharks could never.
7 meters.
never.
If I was 7 meters, I wouldn't do much either.
They're found mainly in the deep, cold waters of the North Pacific, around Alaska, Japan, and Russia, so up quite north.
Yeah.
But this is one of the first times they've been seen this far south in the South China Sea, so very exciting. They're typically from about 200 to over 2,000 meters deep, but they apparently occasionally venture into shallower waters and have been seen on the coastline just every so often if they feel like it, I guess. Their diet is mainly fish, including other sharks, squid, octopus. They call it carrion, but basically just dead stuff that falls to the bottom of the ocean. And they think maybe like seals or other marine mammals in some reasons, but because they're really slow, they don't think they ambush prey or kill, they just mainly scavenge.
Yeah.
Oh, one crazy thing I found out about this shark. Absolutely insane. It was mentioned like a footnote. I think that should have been the main thing. Apparently eating them gives you symptoms of being drunk because they have a toxin in their flesh that affects us.
Oh.
Why anyone's eating these sharks, I don't know. But don't do it because you'll be drunk.
Well,
Hey.
maybe do it.
Never say no.
Maybe don't do it. Let's not do it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just thought it was really exciting. So a bunch of them were super excited about this cow and they came and ate it.
Yep.
There's a video, it's actually incredible because there's this massive cow, a regular cow, sitting on the ocean floor with this really fast current sweeping by, right? Like the cow's carcass is sort of like swaying in the breeze of this current. And then all of a sudden, from the left-hand side of the screen, this huge bullet-shaped head just appears. And it comes over and you think, oh, it must be really close to the camera. Nope. Its head is about half the size of the cow. And it just takes a huge chunk out of it and leaves. Its head, I can't tell you how big this shark was. Anyway, so observations that we saw on this video. First of all, there's a little bit of a hierarchy. Similar, we talked about this before with some sharks that they found having a hierarchy on a piece of prey in the ocean.
Near Hawaii, right?
Yeah, near Hawaii. So larger sharks, over 2.7 meters, exhibited aggressive attacks on the carcass. So they sort of like took their turn first. They came in, they pushed through. While smaller individuals, remember smaller being just less than 2.7 meters long,
Right.
displayed cautious circling behaviors, sort of like going around them waiting their turn. But even weirder was at one point the sharks were observed yielding their positions to others approaching from behind.
Oh.
Like a queue. They formed a queue to eat at this carcass. Like, here's the big shark, the little shark, the little shark, but
By
then
the
also
time
like
the other one gets behind you, you got to
get out of there. It was like if someone came at you from behind, they would move and they'd wait and circle and then take their turn again.
And I'm assuming they have no idea why.
No, absolutely no idea why.
I wonder if it's because they're just so vulnerable in that position. So it's kind of like a mutual understanding. I'm coming in, I will bite your tail or I will bite the cow.
It's also, so they think, from what I could see, yeah, kind of. It is like I can't protect myself from behind, so I may as well move off, clear off, and then come back. They also think that because they have these queuing behaviors and this like social hierarchy, they think it's evidence that they actually have pretty abundant food down there, which is not like anything they've seen before. Most people assume that things in the deep ocean eat occasionally when they can. But because they're being semi-aggressive, because they have these like structures in place, they're like, well, actually, it seems like they've got lots of food to the point where they have to have a system on who gets it.
And enough energy to fight each other over it if they need to.
So they think that's interesting, especially because they didn't see abundant food when they were looking. So they were like, we don't know what that abundant food source is, but they think there is one somewhere for them. One other weird thing they did when they were eating.
A lot of cows falling into the South
A lot
China
of cows. A lot of cows. Two other things they found while they were feeding is that they all retracted their eyes. So you will have seen this behavior in some sharks when they are attacking something, right? Great white sharks will do this when they're attacking. They pull their eyes in and it's a form of protection. And that's because they don't have this membrane on the inside of their eye that's usually made to protect from particulate matter. So they think that it's not usually done in feeding. So they think that maybe they're only doing it because their particulate matter will come off and get in their eyes. Not entirely sure. They also shot out a bunch of particulate matter themselves out of these little, like, there's a technical term for them, but they're essentially like little holes that look kind of like ears behind their eyes. And they just shoot out particulate matter when they bite into this shark. Don't know why. Just happened. Really interesting. So yeah, obviously this is just an observation, but it's a really cool observation. We've learned a little bit from it. We don't know why for any of this because you'd need to actually like go back several times and see. The presence of Pacific sleeper sharks in the South China Sea is exciting because it suggests a much broader distribution than they thought these sharks had. And yeah, that feeding behavior indicates that they have a lot of food down there, which was not thought of either. One quick message about you guys' joke that maybe there was cows in the South China Sea, then that's their food source. I actually looked into it because the question arose, is this the deepest a cow has ever been on planet Earth?
This is why this show exists, Max.
That's right.
Is this the deepest?
Yeah.
And I actually think it might not be.
Oh.
Because a couple of years ago, this is quite a tragic thing that happened, but a ship coming from New Zealand with live exports of, I think it was 1,500 cows, perished. It overturned and it was a shipwreck in the middle of the sea going up to Japan. So from New Zealand to Japan, on the way, there's a lot of trenches, really deep trenches. And so 1,500 cows perished. They drowned. It was an awful experience. But here's the thing. They obviously didn't go and recover them all. There's videos of them floating because
they bloat at the start.
Cows do bloat. But after they bloat, like everything else, they will fall. Now, probably not in time. Most of them probably would be eaten while they were bloated.
Yeah.
There's just things in the ocean will find you.
Yeah.
You'll be eaten. But I think it would be highly likely with that amount of cows that one of them sank quite far. Because in that sort of region of the ocean, there just is a lot of trenches.
Yeah.
So I have no evidence, none. But I think it is likely that this is not the deepest cow that has happened.
But maybe the deepest cow proven on record.
Deepest cow on record.
1.6 kilometres down.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Cool.
There you go.
That's where we'll end this.
Word of the day, by the way, if I can do it. Trichloroisocyanuric acid.
Cool.
I'm not doing it again. It is widely used.
So listen up, that's the one. You get it once, memorize it.
Yeah.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max, Peta. What you got for us, Gabe?
Max, I've got for you this Lyssavirus, Australian bat Lyssavirus. So, like we know, a couple of days ago, about a week ago, a man in his 50s was admitted to hospital in critical care and ended up dying from Australian bat Lyssavirus. And so I thought I'd jump in a bit to what this virus is, how it works, and everything else about it.
Okay.
So there's not much we know about the story itself. We know the guy, a man was in his 50s. He was bitten several months ago in northern New South Wales. And there is reports that authorities, I believe New South Wales Health, has said he received treatment, which we'll get into in a bit, but is actually one of the really interesting parts of this story beyond the tragedy of someone losing their life to a disease like this. But I want to just go into the history of what it is. So it was first identified in 1996.
That is so much later than I thought it would have been.
Yeah,
Holy.
Australian bat Lyssavirus. After a black flying fox was found displaying nervous symptoms near Ballina in northern New South Wales, so quite close to where this case happened. The case, though, that has just happened was the first in New South Wales. All other three have been in Queensland, which is where it's typically found, but it is found in a lot of places around the country, including New South Wales, Northern Territory, Queensland, Victoria, and WA. That's it. The bats have been detected with it in all of those states. The other cases that happened were quite soon after the same year, actually 1996, it was first detected. A woman who had recently become a bat handler started to suffer from it and ended up dying after being put into a coma or ending up in a coma. The other 2 deaths were in 1998 and 2013. So that's 4 deaths, right? That have happened to it since 1996. For comparison, it's a very similar virus to rabies. And the World Health Organization says rabies kills about 55,000 people per year. I saw another stat
Whoa,
that said 59,000.
that is so many more people.
A lot of people. We don't have rabies on the mainland or anywhere on land in Australia. We do have this Australian bat Lyssavirus, which is similar. We call it often just gets called Lyssavirus. But it's kind of like the same thing that was happening with SARS-CoV-2, the virus, that we just called it coronavirus, even though that's the group of viruses it's from. So Lyssaviruses are a type of virus, and one of them is the Australian bat Lyssavirus. When I say Lyssavirus, I'm talking about Australian bat Lyssavirus. Rabies is included in that family. It's called the Rhabdoviridae family, which is...
So they're not just similar viruses, they're from the same family.
They're very
which is why
similar.
they do the
they're
same
very
thing.
similar. And there's another one called European bat Lyssavirus, and I think there's a couple of others as well. So they're very similar viruses in how they behave and how they interact with bats and other mammals, including humans. So yeah, the virus itself looks very innocuous. It's just like this cylinder shape. It kind of looks like the standard bacteria almost look
like
to
an
it.
E. coli
just like
look?
an oval. Yeah. But obviously it can cause
So
massive,
those are up to date on their
horrible
E.
symptoms.
coli.
And Lyssa comes from the Greek for rage or fury, and virus obviously is virus.
That's similar to rabies, isn't it? Rabies comes from the Latin for, I think, like madness.
Yeah, well, the
similar thing.
Lyssavirus includes rabies, so yeah. And yeah, it can include, in Australia, the Australian bat Lyssavirus is found in flying foxes, other fruit bats, as well as microbats, so insectivorous microbats. So it can be found in quite a lot of bats, but it is rare even in bats. Depending on which stat you look at, we're talking about 0.5% of bats, maybe 0.1% of bats that it gets detected in. As symptomatic levels, but some samples have found it in none of the bats they test. So it's rare for it to happen in bats, but lots of bats have been exposed to it. Few end up displaying the clinical symptoms that they end up dying of, but many have been exposed. So they have a built-in level of resistance that some scientists are looking into to see if
That
we
we
can
do
develop,
not have.
develop more from it. And so that's a bit of a clue into how it works. It mainly sits in, they call it a reservoir that a virus will sit in, where it typically rests and builds up numbers and spreads from and survives in, and then it has vectors as well. So the reservoir and vectors for rabies as well as the Australian bat Lyssavirus across the world are the canids, so dogs, cats, foxes, bats, monkeys, skunks, mongooses, all those sorts of things. Obviously, what we're interacting with and what people around the world interact with, we're mainly talking about bats in Australia and dogs around the rest of the world are the main reservoir and vector that humans then interact with. It's when it gets into humans, it's this weird thing in viruses where a virus most of the time actually doesn't want to kill its host. It may do that at some point in its life cycle as a final big push of spreading, but what a virus is trying to do to survive, obviously it's not trying is a bit of a weird word, but what a virus is doing in its survival is replicating itself using a host abilities to replicate genetic information like RNA and DNA, and then using something to spread. So for a coronavirus, it makes us sneeze and cough and do all those sorts of things to spread itself. And what its best way of surviving is to trigger those sorts of symptoms to spread it, and then build up a reservoir in a new host, and then get it to spread it again. There's some viruses that benefit from killing the host because it's a way of spreading. But for a lot of viruses, it's not actually a
good idea.
Good survival. It's not an evolutionary thing.
And that's what happened to
developed.
SARS-1. When SARS-1 hit, it petered out because it was killing off the humans.
It's part of the reason.
Before they could spread the
it's part
virus.
of the reason. So what it's really good at sitting in canids, dogs, bats, and those sorts of things, and spreading. And like we can see, lots of canids, like bats, have resistance to it. So they've evolved resistance to it.
So they can both just live together, kind of.
It goes along, and it will kill bats. It does kill bats, as it does kill dogs. But it also, for a lot of bats, they can just have it in their system. Or beat it off, and
like
it just
tuberculosis
continues.
in humans.
What then happens with some viruses is just sort of through random chance, they'll end up in other similar animals that have similar biologies going on, cellular biologies going on. So they're able to infect them, but they're not adapted to get the optimal evolutionary outcome out of them. And sometimes, horrifically, that just means it actually just is way too symptomatic and ends up causing severe symptoms in that host, that it's as a sort of side effect. So it's a bit of what's happening with rabies here, is that humans aren't really the primary host, but it can live in humans and it can spread probably from humans. But it's not really, it's not the main, it's not what rabies and other Lyssaviruses like the Australian bat Lyssavirus evolved to do. They're evolved to sit in canids, but they can get into humans. And when they do, we can contract it from saliva from an infected animal. The risk after being bitten, we take a lot of these stats from rabies and other things because there's only 4 cases that we're going off. But the infection risk from an infected animal is somewhere between 1 and 60%, depending on how severe the bite is, how infected that animal is, all those sorts of factors. And then if the virus develops inside a human for long enough, New South Wales Health says symptoms start off as flu-like, including headaches, fever and fatigue, and that disease then rapidly progresses into paralysis, delirium, convulsions and death. Symptoms display very differently in different people, but there is that psychological element to it as well as it starts affecting the nerves and the brains of its host. Once symptoms start appearing, that can take several days to start happening. It can take a couple of months. Usually it's 2 to 3 months. It can take several years. It can sit dormant for a long time, depending on how close it is to your nerves when it first gets into your system, how much of it gets in, all those sorts of factors. And once it does start developing symptoms, or even if it's actually just at a detectable level in a human, there is no known successful cure for that. There's no cure generally, but there's no successful treatment.
And that's for rabies as well as for everything in this family.
Symptomatic. Yeah. So that's why the only 2 ways of dealing with Australian bat Lyssavirus in humans is through a vaccine that some people can get if they're going to come into contact with bats regularly. That includes vets and wildlife carers or rescuers. And there is also a treatment regime, which includes rabies immunoglobulin and the rabies vaccine, which you can get if you have been at risk of being infected early on. So even though it's not common, and even though you can only get it by having saliva make contact with something like an open wound or the mucus of your eye or something like that, like it's got to get into your body through the saliva, through a bite or a scratch. So it's very uncommon to get it. But if you do then get bitten by a bat or scratched by a bat, or even if you're overseas dealing with rabies and you think you might have been bitten or scratched by another carrier, the standard protocol is you assume it does have rabies.
Yeah.
Even if it might not.
Go to the hospital immediately.
Well, so you start by immediately washing the wound thoroughly for 15 minutes with soap and water. Apply an antiviral antiseptic to it and then allow the affected area to dry. So that's the first thing you do. Wash it out, soap and water, 15 minutes. If it's your eyes, don't use the soap, but wash your eyes for 15 minutes thoroughly. And don't do the antiviral antiseptic to your eyes either, please.
Real bad.
But antiviral antiseptic to the wound. Allow it to dry. After you've done that, get straight to some emergency ward, wherever you are, closest thing, and tell them you think you've been scratched or bitten by a bat or whatever may have been carrying rabies, and they can go from there. Typically, from what I understand, the treatment is relatively successful if it's early. If you get in there really quickly. So that's why there's an ongoing investigation to this latest case into whether this man received the standard treatment, what sort of treatment he received, when he received it relative to the bite, and if there are any other factors that could have made him more susceptible to getting further disease progression or illness progression. So they're still looking into that because there's some reports that he may have received some level of treatment. Lots of details still to come. New South Wales Health is not revealing a lot as they do the investigation and to not impact the privacy of the man involved in his family. But yeah, they're still looking into that. But there is proven treatment that can work and vaccines that have high success rates as long as they get in there early. So the vaccine obviously needs to be beforehand if you can, but immediately after if not, and the treatment as well needs to be as soon as possible.
The main thing is just not to touch bats, right?
And that's the main thing.
Bats.
So the main takeaway from this is if you do come into contact with one, do the washing, go to wash out the wound, go to a medical centre near you and get treated for it. If you find a bat or you're anywhere near a bat, you need to move a bat, find an ill bat, don't touch it. Call a wildlife carer who has the Lyssavirus vaccine. It's like a $400, $500 vaccine and they have to get like 3 things and boosters. It's crazy. Let them do it and they know how to handle it and stay away. As long as you don't interact with bats directly, They're fine to be around you. The feces and urine, you can't get it from that. It's just from the saliva.
Oh, great, because I thought I got pooped on by a bat like a month ago, and I've been really nervous about it.
Stay safe around bats, and should be all right. That's what I got for you, Max.
I think this whole show is a science experiment.
All right, yeah, let's just get into the science. Our safe space.
Triple Z.
We want to appeal to your senses.
You tune into 4 Triple Z. The show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy.
Good morning.
We've got Maximillian. And we got Gabe.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4 Triple Z just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science curves won't go far. But unlike an engine, I won't keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking Van Stappen.
F1 happened on the weekend, Silverstone in the UK.
Yeah, it did.
One of the biggest Grand Prix, one of the oldest Grand Prix as well.
Isn't that where they originally started, the
Yes.
F1? Yeah.
Yes. So there was a lot of
75 years ago.
There was a lot of history behind this weekend. Also on the back of the F1 movies as well. So we saw some famous faces in the paddocks as well.
And it was a traditional race weekend with free practice 1, free practice 2, free practice 3, quali, and then the feature race on the Sunday. And Max Verstappen out-qualified both the McLarens.
Where did he pull that lap from?
We'll never know.
Absolutely. Like, the whole weekend, it just looked like the McLarens were on it. Like, the Ferraris were even in the mix.
They were, until they weren't.
Until they weren't.
Yeah. Anyway, Aussie Oscar in the McLaren, he got second spot, P2 to start with. And his teammate, Lando Norris, started from third. It was a wet race, wasn't it, of sorts, to kick off the race?
Wet and then dry and then wet and then dry.
So they started off with the intermediate tyres, which means they've got tread on them. And as expected, the McLarens performed pretty well, and soon Piastri was past Max Verstappen.
Yes, because Verstappen, they basically trimmed all the wing out of his car. So, like, there was, like, no rear wing, no front wing, just, like...
just a speed demon down the straight,
speed, yeah.
But the high-speed corner's not so good, because he didn't get the downforce that he required.
And obviously, in the wet, you need more downforce.
Yes, to get rid of the water underneath the tyres. And so there was a couple of safety cars throughout the race. The first one was not that controversial, was it? But the second safety car towards the end of the race, or middle to end of the race, a bit controversial. What happened there?
Oscar was, I guess, a bit interesting on the brakes on the restart. I think it was a borderline issue, but I think the 10-second penalty was way too harsh. I think it was something that was maybe judged more by the outcome of it rather than what he had actually done. Like, it was about 60 psi of brake pressure, right, applied?
Yes, instead of 40 or something.
Yeah, which still feels like, I mean, in actual race conditions, you're applying at least, like, what, 180? It's definitely north of 100 psi in regular conditions. As I understand, the safety car was called in late.
Yes.
So as soon as the lights go out, then effectively Oscar becomes the safety car.
Yes, and that's why he applies the brakes.
Pace.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
And Verstappen had no visibility of him, goes sailing past.
Yeah.
And
but it was good mind games between Oscar and Max, because it had the necessary knock-on effect, because after the restart, Max Verstappen spun it.
Yes.
Before they even to the line.
Yes.
So the mind games are happening. Oscar is getting it all over Max Verstappen's head at the moment.
And it was interesting hearing Piastri. I think now he's in a much more restraint kind of media spokes era now, because he said, I can't say too much, I'll get myself in trouble.
Exactly.
But apparently you can't brake behind the safety car anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much because I'll get myself in trouble, he reiterated. So I think interesting era. And yeah, I was fully confused watching highlights as well. And from some of the stats, 218 kilometers per hour to 52 kilometers per hour was the braking.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
And so Oscar had to serve the 10-second penalty on his second pit stop. And so that allowed his teammate Lando Norris... No national anthem this week. Lando Norris is UK, so yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Good for him.
And he wasn't going to give back that place, even though Oscar asked the team if it was possible for them to swap around towards the end of the race.
No.
But surprisingly, there was a green car following Oscar Piastri.
You don't mean Alonso, do you?
Different type of green, I do fear.
Stroll, was it?
Stroll, for once.
Because that was an interesting strategy they ran with Stroll. He looked like he could have been on for a podium there for a bit. But, it's a wet race. Expect the unexpected.
Do I play the sound?
I think you do.
Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg. Sag's mal ein bisschen männlich. Hey. Hülkenberg. Genau.
Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg.
So many. Oh, I miss Daniel Ricciardo. Our beloved honey badger.
So yeah, he's driving the Stake Sauber?
Kick Sauber.
Kick Sauber. And so he came first time on the podium. How many races? 239 race starts.
What? How many years?
15.
Far out. I do have to comment. There was a meme going around on Instagram that was the champion of cheating on my girlfriend, and it was a compilation of Nico Hülkenberg, and I had to explain it to my partner where I said he hasn't won since his first podium maybe way back 15 years ago.
He never had a podium.
Never had a podium before. So
he had a pole position.
He had a pole position. Yes.
239 races, never finished in the top 3.
Correct.
But I think now that it's interesting because now Yuki Tsunoda is the driver at the moment who now has the longest gap between podiums with 99 races. So congratulations to Nico Hülkenberg.
Of course, it does mean now that he unfortunately has 239 race starts without a victory. So.
Yes.
So
that still continues.
That does continue.
Hopefully the Audi project next year, which is taking over from Sauber, will deliver, and we'll get to see Nico back on the podium sooner than expected.
So they're doing the TV interviews after where they sit on the couch, and Oscar pointed out what sort of trophy Nico was going to get.
Yes. Well, in association with, of course, Formula One and Lego, they received a Lego trophy. I don't know how I feel about fighting for 15 years to get your podium, only for the trophy to not...
To be a toy.
To be a toy that... But... Kudos to Nico. He said, look, I think my daughter would really enjoy it. And there was a really cute video of Nico's daughter running around, very excited seeing her dad on the TV. So at least it's it's very sweet. But yes, I don't know how I would feel.
And Gabe, you're impressed with the Haas team?
Yes, well, they took each other out. You need it a couple of times a season. There's 2 cars per team, 10 teams, and every now and then the teammates just have enough of each other or just don't race well, and they just take each other out of the race, which for a team is probably the worst possible thing that can happen. And they just had this beautiful pirouette off the side, didn't they, of synchronized spinning as they went into the ditch and took themselves out of the race.
Yes.
So they're getting the same performance out of the car, apparently.
Identical performance.
Comedically so. They spun the same. They crashed out the same. So it truly is just the drivers.
So we take a bit of a break now, do we, from Formula One? Mm-hmm. A couple of weeks, few weeks. They have their summer holiday in the northern hemisphere.
It's Spa up next, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. I haven't looked it up. I should have looked all this up. Anyway. The other thing I was excited for, and Gabe was commenting on this, was NASCAR happen on the streets of Chicago. Hit us up with that, Gabe.
Oh, former supercar champion Shane Van Gisbergen, as Max describes, an adjacent Australian. Others would call him a New Zealander. He did a clean sweep in Chicago, Max.
He did.
Tell us about it.
He won both the NASCAR Xfinity, which is the feeder series to the NASCAR Cup Series. So one's on Saturday, one's on Sunday, American time. And it didn't matter where Shane was in the sort of the lineup. I mean, he started from pole for both races, but he was sort of preordained to win both. No matter where he found himself during either of the races, he would methodically make his way to the front. Meanwhile, reigning supercar champion Will Brown finished a sad 39th, crashing out.
Right.
No word as yet if NASCAR will return to the streets of Chicago. They only had a 3-year deal. So it mightn't return next year. So if this happens, SVG will have a tremendous legacy. Over the 3 years that NASCAR has raced on the streets of Chicago, Shane has won 4 out of the 5 races he's competed in.
Bloody brilliant.
I know.
Incredible.
Amazing. IndyCar also happened on the weekend. Scott Dixon won with Alex Palau second and Christian Lundgaard third. Aussie Will Power had a DNF, and former supercar champion Scott McLaughlin finished 23rd. He was 1 lap down. Now, Extreme E. I haven't spoken about that for a while because they've stopped the series of Extreme E because now it's going to morph into what they call Extreme H. So the hydrogen buggies have been built and are ready to race. This is the next iteration of the environmentally friendly motorsport series. The original series saw buggies powered by batteries that needed charging before each race. Now the onboard 75 kilowatt hydrogen fuel cell will charge the buggy's battery pack that in turn powers the drive motors. And the beauty of using hydrogen as a fuel is that the only emission is water, so 0 carbon. And hopefully we get to see them in action sometime soon. They're hoping to race by the end of the year. So that'll be fun to see the first hydrogen-powered race cars. So the next F1, I've been informed, is the 25th of July in Spa. So that's not that far away.
No, I think the break happens after Hungary, which happens after Spa.
Right.
So.
And then F1 Academy comes back in Singapore, doesn't it?
No, in Netherlands.
In
Zandvoort.
Okay. Yeah.
Which will be super fun because that, I believe, is their training field. So where they do testing. So, but that's not... Hold your horses, that's not until the last week of August. So the girls are taking a little break. They're also getting a little bit of rest. But yes.
And we could talk about F2, F3 next week.
Yes, sir.
Anything else to add, Gabriel?
Nothing more.
Issy?
No, great race. Great highlights. Worth the watch.
Maximillian?
Yeah, I think we're in sort of peak Formula One.
We are indeed. Coming off the movie. We've got new people watching the show, new eyes, checking it all out. It's only good for the sport.
And of course, update on the latest rumour. It's sort of, that time where Bottas might be hopping back in the car.
Yes.
So,
but which
it'll be
car?
exciting to see.
But which one?
Exciting.
All that and more.
And they might be called Renault next year, just to give it away.
That's also true, yes.
So, please, Honey Badger, come back.
4ZZZ, nice.
The show's No Idea with me, Max, Issy, Peta. What do you got for us, Gabe?
Max, I got a little extension to the MotoRap with some F1 science. We didn't have time to squeeze into the real deal, so I thought I'd do a little extended cut. There was some science on F1 that came out later in the year that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'd bring it up, which is the F1 score. Do you know what the F1 score is, Max?
The music to it. Hans Zimmerman or something?
F1 score, like a scoring system. Do you know
Not
what it is?
F1 movie, The Score. No.
No. What is it?
No, it's used to evaluate tracking performance. More specifically, I'll get you the actual definition. It's the ratio of correctly identified detections over the average number of ground truth and computer detections. And it came up, Max, earlier this year because they used it to identify cows in barns. This university, it came from the Tokyo University of Science. Do you want a QS ranking?
Tokyo would be 38.
Oh, 45.
112.
Not Tokyo Uni, Tokyo University of Science.
Yeah, it's like a tech, right?
801 to 850.
Damn.
And using the F1 score, they used video footage of cows moving closely together in a barn to achieve a 90% accuracy rate in tracking of cows. That's the latest F1 science. Pretty good.
I'd say it's cow science, but yeah.
And the latest cow science.
Yeah.
We've got both cow stories covered this week. They dropped into the bottom of the ocean in the South China Sea, and they tracked them using the F1 score.
But how fast did the cow get to the bottom of the sea? That's the real question.
And what type of tyres were they on?
And Max, if F1 science and cow science is as important to you as it is to us, there's only one thing you can do, isn't there?
You have to subscribe to 4ZZZ at 4ZZZ.org.au/support. You can subscribe for as little as $25 if you're under 18. You can pretend to be a pet for $25 or your actual pet. You can be a concession for $40. A full subscription gives you $80. Passionate is $140 and a super sub for $500. And you get your name written down on the walls downstairs.
Yes, sir.
Alternatively, you can ring Stephen downstairs on 07 3252 1555 and he will be more than happy to take your subscription. And check out
if
the
you
merch.
subscribe
go.
in the month of July, I would like to say this, Max, because it's exciting to me.
Yeah.
If you subscribe in the month of July, you go into the running for our subscriber prize. And this month, I'm really jealous of this one. This one looks awesome. This is a mixed 6-stopper pack from Non, which is a bunch of non-alcoholic drinks. My favorite, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I think I want to try the stewed cherry and coffee.
In a hot tub?
Oh, I was thinking the toasted cinnamon and yuzu.
In a hot tub. Yeah. Caramelized toasted cinnamon and
circle.
yuzu, also calling my name. Blackberry and plum. Caramelized pear and kombu. Kombu's seaweed. So up my alley.
But yes, they are a lovely sponsor for us. These are full-flavored red wine alternatives with zero alcohol, real ingredients as well, and you can go in the running for them as part of our monthly subscriber prize, where every month we shine a little light on people who support us to support you. So 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Can't get any simpler. Get yourself some nice merch as well.
As we slowly close in to our 50th birthday.
And it's our birthday this year.
Yeah.
So
what the hell? Just
what
do
the
it.
hell?
Yeah.
Always wear a seatbelt, even on short journeys. Doing so halves your risk of dying or being seriously injured in a crash. Drivers are responsible for ensuring all passengers are wearing their seatbelt, including other adults. So don't risk a fine, demerit points, your life, or someone else's by not wearing a seatbelt. Search Street Smarts Queensland for more information.
It boggles my mind that no one would wear a seatbelt while driving.
It's so cringe.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous. We've had years of evolution to show you that seatbelts are actually kind of important.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science and common sense with me, Max, Peter, Gabe. What do you got for us, Issy?
All right. I struggled to write an intro for this study because it's one of those weirder science experiments where it's not the results that are weird, but the methodology.
Yes. I love these.
Yes. This is from the University of, and I'm so sorry, Politecnica de Valencia.
Oh, it's French, who cares?
In Spain.
Spain.
It's Spanish, who cares?
QS ranking.
It's a range.
No, it's not.
87.
222.
436. So I'll give you credit, but it's not the study that's the problem. It's this methodology. It aims to understand how plant-based diets have permanent and damaging effects on your teeth. So, how do you ask?
How good is this? Yeah.
They used...
Wait, do they make people... Oh, sorry, no, continue.
No, it's weirder. How, you ask? They used artificial leaves embedded with plant photoliths, which are...
Artificial leaves?
Yep, which are basically microscopic silica particles found in the cells of plants, and rubbing it on human teeth in a dish.
Sorry, were leaves not available?
Well,
you couldn't find leaves.
No, I think they wanted a little bit of a control measure.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, what's the control? Like, they're like, hey, we made this thing that's made of the most... We made this thing that's so close to a leaf because we want it to be a leaf. But critically, it's not a leaf.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Nanotechnology, baby. I'm pretty sure that's what the funding was instead of actual leaves. But human teeth in a dish is more the emphasis that I wanted to put on.
You're more concerned about the human teeth in a dish. Yeah.
Yes.
That actually doesn't bother me, to be honest.
How did you get...
Yeah, why not?
The teeth, you asked, state of origin. They are enamel specimens from healthy third adult molars, impacted and semi-impacted wisdom teeth without any critical damage, which were provided by local dentists.
So things they'd taken out of people's mouths.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I figured.
And to make it even
use for them.
Easier, you know it's so reassuring when you see the words homemade in the study. They created a homemade experimental device developed for simulating chewing processes between the synthetic or the biocomposite leaf and the dental sample. And I kid you not, it looks exactly how you would imagine it. It's basically two plates on an XY movement with the teeth and basically crushing down. There's a sensor to analyze the pressure and just kind of just like a rail. Almost like, it looks like a little bit like a 3D printer, almost.
So they got real teeth yanked out of people's mouths, put them in a dish, made a little home robot, and then chewed on fake leaves.
Yep. And it's pretty interesting.
Gotta be real with you, the fake leaves is still the bit that's annoying me the most here.
Yes. So, found it very interesting results though. They found that the mechanism primary responsible for age when you when you chew is created by the sharper edges of individual photoliths indenting and scratching against the enamel. So not getting stuck in your teeth or not attributing, it's actually rubbing up against the enamel of your teeth. They found that whilst tooth degradation by plant photoliths are not very relevant to human beings, they are very relevant to animals, particularly those that particularly mammals that have hooves and tend to have a large amount of plants in their diet.
Coos! We've come back to coos.
We have come back to cows, yes. Human teeth provided controllable specimens, as they outlined, which helped simplify the analysis. Fair enough. It was concluded that the presence of photoliths in artificial leaves amplified the extent of any pre-existing wear on the enamel surface, with a more pronounced effect as the initial damage becomes more severe. So very interesting how these operate, how they almost kind of dig into crevices and can exacerbate further damage. It builds off previous studies, and this was crazy, how photoliths are dispersed. There was a previous study done where they used liquid artificial saliva, which is a crazy...
Can't you just get normal? So what?
I don't know. And found that the damage was different compared to tests with or without the artificial particles. The crucial difference was that in the artificial leaf underwent mechanical degradation through testing, i.e. chewing, while photoliths and artificial saliva remained largely unchanged. So really interesting how these two kind of chewing and your saliva kind of play in together. The results of this ultimately was to have a better understanding of how mechanical failure of dental enamels, such as fractures or microscopic wear, has a large impact for dentistry. And also they spoke a little bit about how important teeth are in understanding evolution and also understanding an animal's diet. So this could further contribute to understanding microscopic changes in fossils or other kind of deceased animal skulls and things like that, which I think is really sick. Very strange way of going about it. I thought initially the human teeth aspect was strange, but then homemade device is always so reassuring to see in the figures. So that's my weird science.
So the phytoliths, is it phytoliths? Is that what they're talking about?
Photoliths, yeah. Photoliths.
Right. So that's like little biomineralizations in like little silica and calcium deposits within plant matter that's rubbing up against teeth and causing like grit damage.
Yes,
basically,
essentially.
to your tooth. So I think the fake leaf thing was about, I guess, just making different sandpaper grit.
Yes,
types.
I think digging through, there was like, yes, lighter wear, and then there was heavier, kind of grittier, almost textures being made.
Right.
It was under this was released in, I believe, it contributed a lot to like nanotechnology as well. So I think that played a large part in the creation of artificial leaves. So understanding how they can almost change those deposits.
Yeah.
So mind-boggling. And there is so much maths behind this as well. But yeah, super interesting seeing, they have a graph in here that says real leaf, and it's a photo of a leaf, kind of equals synthetic leaves, and then 3 different biocomposite kind of samples that they have, which I think is really fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So maybe don't eat all your greens. Maybe...
Well, eat all your greens.
Yeah.
Eat your greens, but also probably go to the dentist as well, just in case.
No idea. Space news. On this day, back in 1979, Voyager 2 flew past Jupiter. It's still in operation, and the NASA probe launched back in 1977 as part of the Voyager program, designed to study the outer planets of our solar system. It is the only spacecraft to have visited all 4 gas giants, which include, anyone want to hazard a guess, the gas giants in our solar system?
Jupiter.
Yeah.
Jupiter.
Saturn.
Uranus.
And Neptune. Voyager 2 has also entered interstellar space, becoming only the second human-made object to do so, following Voyager 1. And now, talking about interstellar, astronomers have confirmed the third interstellar object on record is dashing through our solar system. Dubbed 3I Atlas, it appears to be a comet and is thought to have flown in from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, where the central region of the Milky Way lies. The 20-kilometre wide space object will not come closer than about 240 million kilometres to Earth and does not pose a threat to our planet. Currently, it is flying between the asteroid belt and Jupiter's orbit. Now, Superman. There's yet another Superman movie coming out. Do we need another Superman movie? Just quietly. Anyway, as a thought experiment, astronomers have found a suitable solar system where the planet Krypton could have been originally located. The solar system, known as LHS 2520, is 41.9 light years away. So we're going to call that 42 light years away. And as we know, baby Superman left Krypton just before it exploded. If the spacecraft they were travelling on could fly at the speed of light, they would have been 42 years old upon landing on Earth. But Superman lore suggests that there was a kryptonite meteor shower soon after baby Superman's arrival on Earth. And at best, the kryptonite meteor shower would have been travelling at 10% the speed of light. This would then suggest that little baby Superman would be more like 420 years old upon their arrival on Earth.
Oh my God.
Holding the pose the whole way.
That's right. There you go. That's our space news for this week.
stuff.
Like that. Okay. You tune into 4ZZZ. The show is no idea, but not from us longer. Sign us out, Gabe.
That's about all we have time for. Hey, now, Max, I want to start a regular sporadic segment on the show to close us out called Newsletter Watch.
Newsletter Watch.
Oh.
Newsletter Watch.
Yeah.
For those who are not aware, if you're a subscriber of 4ZZZ, you get a newsletter sent out.
Yeah.
And if you're an announcer on 4ZZZ, and I think a bunch of other people just end up on this list too, there's a second, behind the scenes newsletter that we get sent out. And in the last week, Max, pretty good placement for No Idea. I think we can all be proud of ourselves. We got just below the fold of the announcer newsletter, big old No Idea logo and shout out.
Yes.
I think we were talking about Oscars and subscribing or something like that.
And
so
Babe
I'll keep us posted. I think we need to. We had a really strong run last year in the main newsletter for 4ZZZ. We just kept popping up in there.
I think
and
we got
feel
a
like we've
total
let
of
it slide.
6.
It was incredible. It was the best run we've ever had. So I think we just need to call this. We need to call ourselves out. We're not doing well enough in newsletter placements, and we can do better. So this is the start of Newsletter Watch. I'll keep us posted whenever I remember to write this segment.
What a segment.
This episode was brought to you by the word Phytoliths and the subscribers to 4ZZZ. You can join them at 4ZZZ.org.au/support. We'll be back in your ears next week. Between now and then, chuck some emojis into your text. Be grateful that you're not a cow slowly sinking to the bottom of the ocean to be eaten by sharks on camera. Don't have too much grit in your vegetables and steer clear of bats, but do go to the hospital, please, as soon as possible if you do get bitten or scratched by one. You can listen back to all those stories on 4ZZZ.org.au or our podcast to search up No Idea. That's No with a K, 4ZZZ at the end. Max.
Let's do it, and we'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.
You sure as hell are.